Hey everybody, Weed here, and today I want to talk to you about the 5 soil forming factors. So let's get started. So when it comes to soil composition, we gotta remember that soils consist of about 45% mineral fraction, so sand, silt, and clay, with about 5% organic matter roughly. On the other side, the other 50% consists of either water or air. So there'll be more air when it's dry and there'll be more water when it's wet. Okay. Now that we got those basics out of the way, let's dive into the soil forming factors. So the first thing that needs to be considered is parent material. So when it comes to figuring out what the parent material of a soil is, soil scientists look at the mode of deposition. So what this means is, where did the material come from to form this soil? Because soil formation of course happens in place, but the parent material that helps form that soil doesn't always come from that place. They can come from a wide range of places. And so right now we will look at 8 different types of parent material. So the first type of parent material is organic parent material. So this is formed when you have high plant matter that accumulates in water. Because when the plant material is in water, there's no oxygen to be able to break it down. So microorganisms that normally decompose and break down plant matter cannot, because there's no oxygen to do it. So this plant material accumulates over time, like over a long period of time, and eventually forms this organic soil that's full of organic matter. So the next type of parent material, is residual. So residual means it is forming in place. So material is not being transported in. Like in the last one, organic matter is being transported in from plants into water, which is helping form those soils. But residual, they form in place. You can think of some flatlands, anywhere where there's not new material being formed. So these landscapes, like I said, are very stable, and so it takes a long time for them to weather. So there's very intense weathering, and often these residual soils are being formed by chemical weathering. So chemicals from such things like acid rain, chemicals from the breakdown of plant matter, these things are causing to break down this parent material and causing these soils to form. So the next parent material is colluvial. So colluvial is formed by gravity. So if you think of like the edge of a cliff, gravity is pulling that material that's way above and causing it to, pulling it down the cliff and down to the bottom of it. And so that is what's causing, many of these colluvial soils to form, is just simple gravity moving down material. So you think of like a steep hillside, gravity is slowly pulling that parent material down the hillside to the bottom, and there it's gathering, and that is forming new soil. So the next one is alluviation. So alluviation has to deal with water transporting parent material. And we've probably all seen this, when there's a flood, and after the flood is gone, it leaves material behind, and that is alluviation. So it's just simply water moving material, and when it is deposited out of the water and it settles out, then you have new soils forming. Another one is Alluvial Fan. So if you think of like in the mountains, and a canyon's coming down out of the mountain, so when it finally reaches the bottom and it flattens out, if you notice kind of this fan shape at the mouth of the canyon, that is a alluvial fan. So it kind of comes like this, the canyon comes down, and there's kind of this mound at the bottom of it, and that is alluvial fan. So you have at the top, usually you have like bigger particles like sand at the mouth, because they're heavier and they drop out the quickest, and the next is silt and clay, because they're smaller and lighter, they drop off at the base. The next one is coastal sediments. So the ocean is moving material around, the waves are hitting the landscape, and because of that causes that parent material, the rocks and stuff, to break down, and that also forms soil. Next is glaciers. So glaciers have a great effect on rocks. So as they're moving, during the ice age, they were moving, and they were underneath them, they're grinding up, they're grinding up rocks into like powder, and when the the glaciers melted or they receded back, they left behind that material that they've been moving around for thousands of years, and from that, soil is developed. The next one is Eolian Deposits, or material that has been deposited by wind. So if you've probably been outside during a heavy windstorm, often you probably feel, gritty little particles hitting your face, getting in your mouth, getting in your eyes, and that is just material being transported by the wind. And so over time, eventually that material will pile up and be able to form soil. So the last parent material is volcanic ash. So when you think of volcanoes, there's a lot going on. There's ash that's being spewed all over the place. There's lava that's flowing all over the place, and eventually that lava is cooling and turning to different types of rock. Ash that is landing and covering the landscape. So only the ash portion is considered a parent material for these type of soils. So soils that are forming from volcanic activity are formed from volcanic ash. And so parent material that is formed from the lava rocks and stuff like that, would be classified as residual, because that stuff is forming in place. That is forming soils just where it's at. But soils formed from ash is its own classification, and it is the 8th parent material. So here we have an example of a parent material. So I'll let you kind of look at that. Hopefully you can see that. So this is rock was formed from volcanic activity. When it breaks down, it affects the soil that it forms. So soils that are formed from this lithic rock often are acidic, because this rock lacks calcium. So calcium usually causes soils to be more alkaline, but since this lacks calcium, when this breaks down and becomes sand, silt, or clay, it causes soils to be more acidic. So this is just one example of how parent material can affect the properties that your soil has. So if you had a different rock that was high in calcium, as it broke down, it would release that calcium, like limestone. When it breaks down, it releases calcium, and it causes the soil to be more alkaline, or to be more basic. But because this lacks that calcium, it causes soil to be a lower pH and to be more acidic. Hey everybody, thanks for watching part 1 of this series for soil forming factors. There will be 4 more videos that are coming that will talk about the other soil forming factors. So thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, leave a comment, like below, and take care.